Club Penguin is a series that follows an island of penguins throughout the years of living and partying while occasionally needing to stop massive threats to their home. However, I believe that I have found a seemingly endless spiral of lore that all leads toward a massive cases of world building and storytelling. Hi everybody, I'm here in the unforgiving freezing void we know as the Arctic. I'm a bit underpacked for this expedition, only with a t-shirt cannon and my invisible snow gear that is in fact keeping me warm and is also invisible. Today, I plan on talking about a children's web game along with finding penguins on my own time. First, I gotta lay down some general stuff. Club Penguin in my eyes has 4 major branches of events, with the most important things to happen being in at least one of these branches. These being ninjas, spies, puffles, and parties. All of these branches are important to an extent, and there are a few exceptions, but most things that matter are in here. I'm not gonna talk about every specific thing, like respectfully I don't care about Halloween 2008. It doesn't matter, and that's the last time I'll be specifically mentioning Halloween 2008. We're also looking at what I consider the Bible of the funny penguins. No experimental penguins, no penguin chat, and no weird Vietnamese cartoon that looks eerily similar to the iconic flightless birds. Additionally, the main island doesn't have a name. It's just called the Club Penguin Island. From now on, I'm gonna call this island Jeremy, because it looks like a Jeremy, and I feel bad because, as you'll see, Jeremy is pretty old. And from the looks of this planet, specifically the lighthouse, we can assume that the island is one of the largest places on this planet, in what I would assume is a North Pole equivalent in this Earth equivalent. Or this is a goofy and not accurate depiction. I don't know, this is a children's game. And now, let's start off by looking at the first major event from over a decade ago. 72.1 million years ago. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, there's just time travel. This just happens to be the earliest event. Dinosaurs and caveman penguins resided on Jeremy, who had a bit less snow. Modern penguins like Gary the Gadget Guy use time travel to check out this place, meet ancestor penguins, and eventually take back the dinosaur puffles. At some point, I would assume that a meteor killed every species that's irrelevant because that just makes sense. A few years later in medieval times, there were 5 penguin kingdoms until Scorn the Dragon King declared himself the Super King, and then everyone worked together to not have him do that thing. And then Scorn explodes, which is very cool. Skipping ahead, we're now looking at a long time ago, enough to where a person who's old now isn't old but instead a younger person. This is Sensei. He kinda looks like Sensei Wu from Lego Ninjago, but I'm 40% confident his name is just Sensei. Before he became Sensei of all penguin ninjas, he spent years alone in the wilderness of this modern island, mastering fire, water, snow, and making haikus. He has made a lot of haikus. Eventually, he meets this nice walrus named Tusk, who trains alongside Sensei until a big ol' avalanche in one of their training sessions traps Tusk. Sensei finds one of Tusk's tusks and thinks, "Aw, pants, my best pal died," but he didn't die, and instead vowed revenge after heartbreak. Fall 2005 to summer of 2007, Club Penguin, despite already existing, truly began to see an influx of new populace. This period is what I would call a generation. Club Penguin seems to have 3 major generations over the official 12-year run. Just some general stuff about Club Penguin: a majority of the penguin economy comes from playing games or working odd jobs to get money, which could then be used for clothing, furniture, puffles, or other cosmetics. Along with that, there are a lot of fun locations, including a plaza in town, delicious diets of pizza, coffee, and fish, and even a newspaper titled the Club Penguin Times, ran by Antarctic, and that's just a silly pun. The paper basically acted as an easy way to access news or rumors, such as how the iceberg outside of the island could be flipped over, or how there were ninja sightings. Of course, I need to talk about some of the mini games. One of the fastest ways to earn money in this game is by playing a collection of flash games. Games can range from riding on minecarts, sledding, moving bags of coffee beans, and rescuing puffles, each paying amounts of gold based on your performance. It's a pretty good life, with the most stressful things within it are trying to meet celebrities like Rockhopper the Pirate or the Penguin Band, not saying bad words or you'll get permanently banished for all eternity, making sure your puffles don't starve to death, that is what happens, along with maintaining your memberships, which involves putting real-world money into the game to do what I can only define as get more rights. Because without a membership, you get restricted on purchasing certain items along with certain puffles, and you can even be prohibited from major events, but otherwise, Club Penguin's not that bad, right? Right? After being on the island for 30 days, penguins are given the chance to participate in the Penguin Secret Agency, or PSA for short. And here you can work with a few penguins like Gary the Gadget Guy, the time-traveling inventor, Rookie, a stupid idiot, Jetpack Guy, a jetpack guy who's beefed as heck for some reason, Dot, who can disguise, and the unnamed director, who we would never find out who they are until we do. Occasionally, you'll join them in doing stuff, and the stuff happens sometimes, like finding Antarctic's missing puffles, getting lost while testing Gary's sled, and unsticking a pile of gold from a ceiling. Wait, what? In missions 3 and 4, you begin to find mysterious fur near crucial areas of the mission. We'll get back to that, but first we need to talk about the big finale behind Generation 1. The island begins to flood due to cracked glass, and once that happens, then comes the Disney buyout. In August of 2007, Disney buys Club Penguin for $700 million, even though memberships only cost $60 a year. For now, Jeremy and all other penguins are pretty chimmy-chillaxed if you ask me. However, in the following years, we would see that the mere thought of Disney begins to shake up the norms of life in the Club Penguin Club for the clubbed penguins, as we'll see. Jeremy is in for a hell of a next few years. September 2007 to 2012. This is a major period for Jeremy and friends. I have no idea what black magic Disney did to this island, but it sure is eventful. Excluding the positives like the discovery of a new puffle species, a pizza plant, as in a vegetable plant, along with expanding the island further, there's just a lot of things that happen. For example, there's a box dimension, a dimension where all cardboard and regular boxes come from. I'm as shocked as you are when I say that this specific alternate dimension isn't really that important to the overarching narrative. It's just kinda there for silly antics. Also, there's the 2010 Game Day, which is when the Penguins of Jeremy split into factions and competed for land because it's a game day and that was important enough to go on the Wii. I'm only mentioning it because I remember playing this game specifically when I was sick and I drank paint. Not in that order. I should emphasize the paint made me sick. There's even just some movies that get made in the universe, including the silent horror films Night of the Living Sled. And that's just kind of a cute little thing. That didn't need to happen, but they did it. Books! Reading is fun. I love reading. Club Penguin made the Choose Your Own Adventure books, and I don't know if they're canon. The only one I read was where you swap bodies with your puffle, and one of the endings makes you join Rockhopper's crew. This is from a memory when I was 8 years old, so I can't really confirm it. I just remember I liked reading. This one time in 2008, an avalanche covers Sensei's dojo, and once this snow clears up, it opens up for more ninja antics to happen. Ninja content specifically is really neat in my opinion. Basically, you're learning the art of card jutsu, a game of rock, paper, scissors, but if you both play the same element, whoever has the highest number wins. At one point in 2009, the sky turns orange because of a volcano. While everyone panics, Sensei is all like, "Oh, it's time to be a fire ninja, haha," and then he writes a haiku. And then after that, you become a fire ninja, which involves playing the game in this way crazier fire arena duel thing. In 2010, there was another disaster, but this was just another flood. And once again, Sensei kind of just shrugs it off. Celebration of water, you become a water ninja. It's not a big deal. But the big ol' salami in this disgusting $5 footlong has to be what happens to the PSA. So early on in Gen 2, you go on your 5th and your 6th missions, where you meet Herbert and his little crab goon Klutzy. Now Herbert is bad news. At some point before late 2007, Herbert was born in the Arctic Circle and decided to swim out on an iceberg to go somewhere warm. And he ended up in the somewhat cold Club Penguin and Jeremy. Fell off the iceberg when it flipped, was rescued by his crab pal Klutzy, finds a cave on the island, and begins to set up technical stuff and other gadgets in hopes of warming the island up. He refuses to move away because he fears that he's gonna end up somewhere even colder, so instead he decides to ruin it for everyone. He also hates everyone because of the parties and events that are just too noisy for him. In other words, Herbert is going out of his way to ruin Jeremy's climate out of laziness and spite, acting like a weird combo of Plankton and Squidward along the way. Missions throughout 2008 follow you and the PSA stopping Herbert's bullshit throughout the year. Some of this includes robots, stealing, and earthquakes. Eventually, there's so much of it, Club Penguin is forced to go over to the Nintendo DS. In November 2008, Club Penguin Elite Penguin Force is a game about the EPF, a super secret organization consisting of some of the members in the already sort of secret PSA. It's basically the exact same thing. You beat up robots, then a bigger robot that's holding Gary hostage, which rule of thumb, if Gary is being held hostage, shit is getting real. But soon after, the robot is defeated, and that's the adventure. Very fun. In 2009, nothing notable happens for the spy stuff, but in May 2010, 2010, the 11th PSA mission becomes available. In the Veggie Villain, Herbert almost reveals the PSA to everyone, even though everyone basically knows about it already, and then you don't let that happen. But as you think it's over and have a celebration party, Herbert pulls a silly. You see, he teleports a gift to the PSA, a timed popcorn bomb. Herbert the polar bear successfully bombs a secret organization. In fact, the attack is so bad that the PSA shuts down permanently from the damages, literally never coming back to its original form. In the same month comes the DS game Elite Penguin Force Herbert's Revenge. Following the EPF, as it replaces the PSA, it's basically the same at this point. All the important agents return, don't worry about it. Same as usual, stop Herbert's silliness until the end, where a geyser erupts from Jeremy and nearly floods the island for a third time, and Herbert actually agrees that this is a bad thing, but it gets stopped last minute and the EPF doesn't need to operate for some time. After that, Herbert would lay off for most of 2011, mainly just trying to hack into the EPF mainframe throughout, and you just don't let that happen. At one point in 2012, a giant meteor hits Jeremy, unleashing superpowers, and Herbert uses it for some evil Marvel antics, which is also a thing that Disney owns, so that's cool. Finally, at the end of 2012 and Gen 2, Herbert would hold Gary hostage, so obviously, shit's about to get real. Throughout November would be Operation Blackout, essentially the climax of all the spy antics. Herbert would capture every major EPF member, including the unnamed director. He would destroy the EPF and take all of the sunlight available, making the rest of the island way colder and covering it in snow. He also rebranded basically everything, so the island is not in good shape at this point. Luckily, the player penguins all come together, infiltrate Herbert's base, and take him down. And here it's revealed that the secret director of the PSA and EPF was actually Antarctic, which makes sense because of her knowledge of virtually everything going on in the Club Penguin times, and over the next few weeks the island would be rebuilt, as quite literally every major location would see redesigns following up on an insane event which literally saw the most players at once in this game's history. Now for a moment, I just need to note something really important. Club Penguin is really cool, no doubt in my mind. I know I'm grazing over a lot of the events, but there genuinely is a lot that happens in this game that actually made it worth playing. I can personally really respect the effort that consistently came to make the world throughout. Like the idea of Antarctic being the spy director was teased in Morse code at the nightclub. It seemed like the developers really cared throughout, with this generation specifically feeling like Club Penguin at its prime. But moving on, 2013 to 2017, Jeremy's looking pretty dang good from all the redesigns and improvements that went on after Operation Blackout. Though compared to previous years, the events taking place aren't nearly as crazy. There were already some new places added in along these years, with new puffles being discovered, like Crystal Puffles, Animal Fusion ones, and basically just Olaf from Frozen, but a Puffle. Disney kept implementing crossover events to promote new movies and shows at the same time. They even made some apps that I think are just mini games, but also portable, so I'm personally not sure if they matter that much. There's even some animated specials that has Gary, but I don't know if they even matter. There's also a Santa equivalent, I guess I should throw that out too. The ninja stuff storyline-wise came to a close in 2013 with the Snow Ninjas. Tusk the Walrus finally returns and tries to unalive the Penguin Ninjas, so then penguins work together to not let that happen, and Sensei even joins you for the confrontation. Eventually, Tusk and his snowman are defeated and he goes away forever, I think, ending the personal enemy and journey of this subplot. Unlike the ever iconic polar bear, Herbert. Herbert's shenanigans are here as always, like he has yet to truly win, because I'm gonna be honest, he peaked in Blackout. There's nowhere you can go from there, respectfully, of course, to Herbert. I mean, he tried, he really did. That you may as well give up if you don't win there. At one point, he steals a big ol' hot sauce in hopes of making a heat bomb, but that fails. During a Star Wars event, there's Darth Herbert, an actual Star Wars Sith trained by Palpatine. The Death Star blows up, and again, what is Disney doing to cause this? Brainwashing Puffles, that goes wrong, he fails. Alien invasion that abducts Klutzy and penguins, but Herbert takes some meteor from it, and then he uses the meteor in Operation Triumph in an attempt to destroy the island once again, but surprise, surprise, he fails. After this, Herbert is basically absent until the 11th anniversary event and the Waddle-On Party. Speaking of which, in early 2017, it was announced that Club Penguin would be shutting down at the end of March. It was mainly because the penguin economy was slowing down and other kinda sucky stuff. Club Penguin was coming to an end and everybody knew about it. So from January to March of 2017, there was the Waddle-On Party, where everyone basically gave their goodbyes. Herbert seemed okay with the lack of noise, and even if you weren't playing anymore, it's undeniable there was an impact for a ton of people. This event would be the 153rd and final major major party, a true celebration of everything leading up to it. On the final day, all penguins got free memberships just because, and the iceberg possessing one of the biggest rumors of Club Penguin was finally tipped over. And then, after those last few moments, that was it. No more Club Penguin. It was gone. Just kidding! As Club Penguin shut down, Club Penguin Island was released. Apparently the island is supposed to be Jeremy, but look at it. That island looks like a Jeremiah, and I'm sure Jeremiah could be nice, but that's not the Jeremy we all know and love. Sure enough, Disney absolutely replaced Herbert as the series antagonist, as in this installment, everything was restricted behind a paywall. Say what you will about old Club Penguin, but a lot of it was free and still accessible even if you didn't have a membership. Whereas a lot here was super un-user-friendly and mega lame-o. You can tell people didn't like Jeremiah as much because there wasn't as many events, there were no ninjas, there was no card jutsu, puffles were only limited to the main ones, and the craziest thing to happen were fan raids and protests because, again, not being a member meant you couldn't even wear pants. This isn't Club Penguin, this is blasphemy, oppression even. Jeremy is dead. This isn't my iconic children's web game, this is a mobile game of false hope. At the very least, there were some missions you could get from the mascot characters, one of which involved stopping Herbert from zapping the island. But does it even matter? For Christ's sake, he's wearing clothing. That lovable grouchy polar bear I know and love was naked, and he was proud of it. Potentially, Club Penguin Island could have gone further to be something greater, but with all the change to non-members and the lack of general stuff, it would just shut down after not even 2 years. And after that, silence once again. This silence being even louder and longer. But there's still time travel. In 2014, Gary the Goofball travels 2,000 years in the future. His descendant, Gary 3000, is there. Herbert cryogenically froze himself, and the EPF was instead short for the Extraplanetary Foundation to protect future Jeremy from danger, including the ultimate Protobot 10,000, which is shooting meteors at the island. So from this, we can conclude that Silly Penguin shenanigans are still thriving, even after a couple of millennia. So with that, I would personally assume that it's still thriving as we speak, or reopens eventually within the next 2,000 years or something. Though personally, I won't be able to confirm that because it's very likely time travel will never be accessible to us, because if it was, we would probably know about it already because it's time travel. They would go back, or maybe they only go in the future, or maybe like our centuries are just really lame and that's why nobody knows about it. And that's about it. We likely won't ever see Club Penguin ever again in an official manner. It's already been 5 years and Disney's just kind of holding it at a chokehold. It's like that other game, Toontown, probably, but that's another story for another day because I've been spending weeks researching not Toontown. To be fair, we can still access the file information from fans salvaging the web game before it was fully shut down, but those will always have a risk of hacks and whatnot. And there's also the DS and Wii game, which can probably be emulated fairly well. I still have access to them, and you know, they're alright. To an extent though, Club Penguin is lost media. I'd recommend checking out the series if you can. It's truly a fun time, and I loved it growing up. I would recommend it to anyone. I like, not even joking, I think it was just a fun little silly fun haha woohoo tee-hee franchise, you know? So yeah, it's Club Penguin. And that's about it for now. I hope you have a nice day or night, and if you're watching this before you go to bed, you probably have a big day tomorrow, so please get some rest. I'll just stay here thinking about some more online games and playing with these funny little penguins, who in my opinion are honestly pretty dang cute. Oh, whoa, no need for that language. If you do that again, you're going for a ride in here, buckaroo, understand?